This video is brought to you by our supporters on Patreon. If you want to be part of the community that makes content like this, head over now.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Good Areas Live. I'm Behram, who you can find at DefMango on Twitter. With me is my colleague Varun Alvaconda, who you cannot find on social media even if you try. And then we've also got Jarrod, who you can find literally everywhere. And before we start reviewing what was a historic win for South Africa in the Kolkata Test, I'd just like everyone to know that all of our podcasts and shows on the Good Areas Network, they are available or powered by our supporters on Patreon. And you can become one of them by going to Patreon/Good Areas Podcast. Then enjoy ad-free content, talk to us exclusively, this, that, the other. All right, gentlemen, the reigning World Test champions, South Africa, have won back-to-back Test matches in Asia. First Rawalpindi, now Kolkata, a 30-run victory versus India. And I mean, that's 4 home losses for India in a year. So, yeah, I mean, how do you feel, Varun, I suppose?
Yeah, so as I was saying in a chat yesterday, the moment the target went above 100, I knew they were going to bottle this. Like the only way I knew for a fact they would chase it if it was like 90. They win by 4 wickets, but anything above that, they would lose this. So I'm not completely surprised. Also, they deserve to lose for having Washington at 3. I'll stand by
Jarrod,
it.
do you feel part of the blame goes to us that we hyped them up so much before the New Zealand series and it's all been downhill since?
If you weren't hyping them up before the New Zealand series, you should probably quit your job in cricket media. I think that I thought the same. I thought anything over 100 was going to be hard to defend. I just didn't think South Africa was going to set them over 100. I thought that was the bit that surprised me. There was I've been fascinated, and Varun will attest to this. It's actually in the main video on the channel as well. There's a ball at the end of day 2 that Corbin Bosch faces, where it's just like, it looks like one of those video game balls where there's a glitch, right? And it's like it hits the pitch and just bounces and goes sideways on Corbin Bosch, and Rishabh Pant has to flap around like a fish to try and stop it. And I was like, well, how are they going to set more than 100, right? Like it was what, 59 or something overnight? Is that what the lead was? 50 odd? Was it 60 odd? I can't remember.
It was 30. The lead was
right?
the lead was 30 on the dot for India.
Overnight. No, I'm talking about at the end of day 2.
At the end of day
63.
Two,
63 was the lead overnight.
63, yeah. And I'm sitting there going, yeah, good luck getting that over 100. Like, but I was thinking the same. I thought if they got to 100, that would be really interesting. And I woke up quite early just to check the scores. And I was like, when I saw what the lead was, I was like, I'm going to go back to bed and I'm going to wake back up and India's going to have lost this game, right? And that's exactly how I felt it was going to happen. I don't know what the odds were or anything. I have to talk to my betting friends on that. But it just felt like to me it was a very, very tough situation for India to be in, especially because, as me and Varun have noticed, South Africa was spinning the ball almost twice as much as India, right?
Yeah.
And by that point in the game, that's what was the main factor.
It is quite fascinating. So yesterday I was on live show and I thought that 120 was that golden number, but I had no faith in South Africa to get there, to set that sort of a target. But I suppose the best way or sort of place to start over here would be to talk about the surface because it's drawn a lot of ire and a lot of criticism. Michael Vaughan criticized a lot of things. He's, of course, Jarrod's new mate from Stick to Cricket. And that's no news, I suppose. But Ravi Shastri called it average. Bhaji blasted the pitch as well. And look, from what I saw, there was a lot of turn on and bounce on offer from one end, and it was slightly easier from the other end. But this was a very tough track, given that only one batter crossed 50 and no team managed 200 plus in this entire test match. Gautam Gambhir, by the way, said that there were no demons in the pitch and it was made to order. So India got what they wanted, whereas Morne Morkel said that that's not what India expected. So there is some confusion over here. And I don't know, maybe Gautam Gambhir is friends with some really friendly demons.
I don't think any of us should touch that because my next line get most of us cancelled. But I think it's really fascinating that this seems to be another situation where what happened was, and we saw this. This reminds me of the Cape Town test when South Africa tried to make a pitch different. Generally, the pitches where you try and doctor them against what they normally do, right, is when they go a bit to shit. Right. And you talk to a groundsman and they'll be like, yeah, we can make a pitch do essentially what it normally does over and over again. We can make a pitch slightly more weight in one way or another. But if you're really trying to get us to do something, that's when things can go wrong. And what I think what's fascinating about this wicket is it's the combination of its spin, bounce, seam, You couldn't hit boundaries on it either, right? So that's 4 pretty major things all going on a wicket at the same time that I can't think of, like, what country is this pitch from, right? It's not a center pitch. It's not an Asian pitch. Like, this is an alien pitch, right? It's a freaking Mars pitch. Actually, Mars might be a bit dry. I don't know. One of the other planets I'm not aware of. It's a Venus pitch. And so, you look at it from a batting perspective. When you say no demons, I think he's kind of right in that what he was trying to say is it's not as if this pitch is unplayable, right? But when you look at the confluence of those 4 things I just said, it's probably not unplayable. It's not one of those pitches where it's like, we couldn't play on it because of the bounce, or we couldn't play on it because of the seam, or whatever. But when you put all those things in, where do you hide as a batter? Right? Like, there's something happening almost every couple of overs that you can't handle. And it's like, even when the spinners took over, there was still something in the wicket for seam, right? It's not like it suddenly completely switched over. And so for a long period of time, it was helping spin and seam at the same time. What the fuck is that?
Yeah, I mean, alien pitch does kind of, describe it perfectly. Varun, I know that you're pretty flustered with this because you were mentioning how India have done this exact same thing in the recent past, particularly the New Zealand series as well. But I feel that, Saurav Ganguly's comment is really important over here, where he says that this is what they asked for. We left it or made it drier than usual, and now, it's backfired. Plus, even if India lost the toss, the way they kind of rolled South Africa over in that first innings, Bumrah was unplayable, 5 for 27. He Bumrahed after quite a while, right? So what's your take on all of this?
Yeah, so I believe that they didn't water the pitch for 48 hours before the game for day 1, right? That is, again, like, this might actually be like an Eden Gardens pitch where you just take day 4 and day 5.
Yeah.
But like, that's probably what happened. Also, like, we should say this is basically a 2-day test match because we lost like 15 overs each day because India refuses to have multiple time zones, right? So it's actually probably much worse than what it actually was. I felt like it was so bad that I think this test match actually started a discussion of why India should have multiple time zones, which I never heard of before today. This test match.
It's a big country to have one time zone, by the way. I've
really,
always felt that. Like,
I never
this is such a stupid conversation to happen in cricket, but it is happening in cricket, right? Because it is. I've always felt that of like, depending on where you are in India, it doesn't make any sense. Like the width of India is ridiculous. So what's Australia got? 3 time zones. India isn't that much smaller than Australia, right? Actually, Australia has more than 3. It has 3 distinct time zones, but it could fit some more ones in there if it wanted to. It's just no one lives in the other parts of the country. So I think that is quite fascinating. It was a 3-day test basically because 3 guys could block on this wicket. It's a 2-day test spiritually and morally every way you look at it, right? But just to get back to the whole pitch thing, we kind of thought that with Ashwin moving on and with Kohli and Rohit not being involved anymore, that we were going to see more even wickets coming up, right? Like, we thought there'd be a bit of a pushback, but obviously they're like, no, these are the best wickets. And you look at that, they've now been outbowled by Hartley, Kuhneman, Ajaz Patel, Mitch Santner. Who?
Murphy.
Todd
Murphy.
Yeah. There's a lot of weird dudes who have now outbowled their bowlers.
Of all time, Joe Root.
Joe Root as well. Yeah. So
and Markram got a wicket today as well. So it's
it's you're getting to a point where you're like, is this the best option anymore? But then you look at the lineup and you're like, they had 4 spinners in this side. They still should have cleaned up, right? Like, it doesn't make sense. But when you make a test that random, like Simon Harmer only had the bowl for 2 days, right? He's not going to be tired. You don't need 4 spinners. You just need one guy who's really good in that sort of situation. So, I think they're playing against their skills. The 4 spinners, if you have 4 spinners of that quality, surely the main strength would be over the period of 5 days. No other team in the world is going to have 2 spinners of that quality, let alone 3 spinners of that quality. And so you're going to, over a long series, you should be able to exhaust all the other spinners, get their fingers numb, open up their calluses, all those sorts of things, and get to a point where you can outlast them. If it's a shootout, it's hard to actually even use your other spinners.
Yeah,
Jarrod,
I mean,
we were
that's
talking
the thing,
about
right?
this in the footmarks, right? Do you remember we were talking about India's missed opportunity on ranked turners? It aged like fine wine because it's like on this pitch you didn't need 6 bowlers.
Yeah.
Right?
Steve O'Keefe has been mentioned in the comments, and
Yep.
do take note that all of these spinners are finger spinners. Of course, Simon Harmer was the guy who was destroyer in chief in this particular test match, 4 for 30 in the second innings, followed by 4 for 21 in the fourth. And, Keshav Maharaj has a stinker, by the way. It's
Yeah.
just Harmer. So that's also something that we need to take note of.
And I think that's really important as well, because you're basically being beaten by one spinner. Right? And he's only taken 8 wickets. It's not like he's taken 16 wickets in this game. But you've basically been beaten by one spinner, and you've got 4. Right? So you're in this weird position. We just got a super chat that I'll put in here from, I think it's from Rahul, right? Who says, yes, 3 of the spinners can bat, but having too many bowlers, 6, confuses the captain. That's very, very true, right? I've said this before. I think once you get over 5 bowlers, it's tricky. 6 bowlers is really, really tricky. But 6 bowlers in a 2-day test match is pointless. It does not help you.
I disagree about the confusion. I think there was clarity, but I do think the issue is there's just too many options, because Siraj basically doesn't bowl most of the second innings either. So they only use 4 bowlers in the second innings for like vast majority of it, right? It's only at the end that Siraj cleans up at 2 wickets.
Yeah.
Washington was
also
1
it's-
over in the test match, I think.
It's quite funny, Varun, that when we previewed the series, you were talking about pace and bounce in Kolkata, and
Yeah,
we
that's
saw
what I
that,
heard.
but we also saw the ball turn square, especially from that one end. And what I find quite fascinating. So, Jarrod, I'm not sure you know this, but I've always been in the camp of trying Washington Sundar as a false 3, whereas Varun gets triggered by it. Right?
Everyone in the world's aware of this, guys.
Yeah. So interestingly enough, I feel that even though they go with 4 spinners, and Washington is India's highest scorer in this test match on aggregate, right? 31 and 29, so it's 60 runs. He only bowls a solitary over. So you're not using your 4th spinner. And it's not like South Africa get their lineup perfect either. Kagiso Rabada is injured, and then they play Mulder as a false 3. And of course, they could have played Senaran Muthusamy as an extra spinner, but they don't do that. They play Corbin Bosch, who plays a very vital role with the bat in the 3rd inning. So it was all hodgepodge. None of this stuff made sense, but yet we got a really interesting test.
Yeah, it was mad, wasn't it? It really was. It's a chaotic, weird kind of game that has ended up. It'd be funny to see kind of how it goes. I mean, and these test matches in general, because of they're the best test matches. I'm sorry. I don't care about demons. I don't care about Michael Vaughan. I'm not saying Michael Vaughan is a demon in this situation, but I'm just saying, I don't care about any of that sort of stuff. This was just fun, and it's chaos, and it's nuts. And these test matches are the ones that live in your memory. And so it is, in that way, a very, very entertaining game. The question has to be, at a certain point, though, are these the kinds of games that India want to play in, because they are making worse teams have a higher percentage. So this is the Bazball thing, right? Indian fans love slagging off Bazball, and I enjoy every moment of it, right? Really, it's fun. But what India is doing is a version of Bazball with these wickets. Because what they are doing is they are going, we are so much better at this one thing that we're going to make these incredibly highly volatile wickets that we will be able to just steamroll teams on, right? But in order to make a volatile pitch, what you actually do is you up the chances of the opposition getting on a roll, right? And so the opposition got on one roll in this game and won the game, because that's all they had to do, right, in order to win this game. If you are the better team, and no one is looking at these 2 sides on paper at the moment and thinking that South Africa is a better team than India, if you are the better team in India, why are you upping the volatility? You actually want to downplay the volatility. You want to make sure that South Africa has to play a magnificent game to beat you in almost all 4 innings, right, to be able to beat you. And at the moment, you just need a friggin' Tom Hartley spell to lose a game. And I don't think you need pitches that are Tom Hartley-esque, right? No one even remembers who there are people Googling Tom Hartley now because it happened so long ago and no one's seen the dude. I'm not even sure he's still alive. I don't know where he is, right? He could have been kidnapped. He might be playing squash now, right? He might have changed sports. I don't know where Tom Hartley is, right? I don't think you want to do that. And I think that's the biggest issue here, is why are you upping that when you can have a wicket that spins and that has a little bit in it, but that the other team actually has to work for their wickets. At the moment, Simon Harmer bowling to left-handers on a wicket like this, literally, he took 8 wickets in the game, am I right in saying that? And 6 of them were left-handers?
I assume so. Both the wickets he got of righties were Jarrell. So,
and one of those wickets is completely on Jarrell, by the way, where he rocks back and pulls the ball. Yeah.
I will give him this. I think it deserves to be hit for 6. I think he executes it badly. I don't. Yeah. You needed runs at that point. I don't blame him for that. it's no different to me than you just playing a bad shot on this pitch. Like, fair enough. Like, you had it, you executed it badly. That's fine.
I think that's fair that you have to take your chances on this sort of surface. But to Jarrod's point, I completely get that you don't need to curate rank turners and minefields or shootout pitches in that regard, because you're such a good team, even now, even if this team is inexperienced with a new captain, that on balanced pitches, you should pound for pound be able to defeat teams which are worse than you, right? But it's not just about rank turners. This surface had such invariable bounce that Marco Janssen came into play. Some of those balls were shooting high. The one that gets rid of KL Rahul, for instance, how do you play that? I mean, Janssen ends up taking 3 for 35 and 2 for 15. You've given him 5 wickets, and your best spinner out of 4 was Jadeja, who takes 4 for 50 in the third innings. So none of these things go to plan, and you're bringing South Africa into the game, who, by the way, aren't, playing Rabada either due to injury.
Yeah, I wonder what a straight, especially once Rabada's not a factor. I wonder what, like just a normal Eden Gardens wicket, you would have India as pretty heavy favourites, right?
Yeah.
And yet you look at this particular one, and if you would have known what the wicket was going to be like here, you would have to say kind of either team could win, because one team could go on a roll of just taking a bunch of wickets in a row, or one good partnership can, help shape the game, or whatever that may be. The best wicket, I would say, and I've been saying that for about 7 or 8 years, the best wicket that India can play on is probably a flattish wicket. So you don't want a dead flat wicket, but a bit of a flattish wicket that helps the spinners, and Bumrah will just do what Bumrah does. Right? That's probably the best wicket that India can play on, right? Make the opposition spinners actually bowl you out, not just allow them to come in and rag the ball. What was Simon Harmer spun the ball at 3.5 degrees median turn all the way through this game. They're lucky he only took 8 wickets.
Absolutely. And I mean, there's a lot more to talk about. We've spent a lot of time on pitches and demons and potential flat decks and uneven bounce. But there are some performances that we need to discuss. Before that, we shall be taking a short break. You guys are watching Good Areas Live with Behram, Jarrod, and Varun. And don't go anywhere. We'll be back after 30 seconds or so. So stay tuned. Play the ad, guys.
I thought you were playing the ad.
Sorry.
Who's playing the ad?
Now's the
I don't know
time.
which ad am I playing. I
Do
don't
we
know
have
why
any
I'm
ads?
playing.
We should play an
I
ad.
have no idea.
Ross Taylor couldn't see at night or when the clouds were in. Eventually, he had to see an eye specialist who would fix his eyesight. In the 2 years before the change, he still averaged more than 50 in international cricket. The top level of batting talent can basically see in the dark. That is who we are talking about in our new book, The Art of Batting. Head over and order your copy today.
Welcome back to Good Areas Live. You guys are with Jarrod, Behram, and Varun, and we are reviewing South Africa's historic 30-run win over India in the Kolkata Test. It was chaotic, and even though, people have had a lot to say about the pitch, we've had a lot to say about the pitch, it wasn't entertaining as hell Test match. Now, so I know, Jarrod, you don't really care much about the Player of the Match award, but I often have my grievances with respect to it. Now, I'm taking nothing away from Simon Harmer. Brilliant spell of bowling in both innings, 8 for 51 on aggregate. He gets the Player of the Match. In my opinion, however, if there's one batter who's scoring 50 plus in this entire Test match, and that happens to be South Africa's captain as well in Temba Bavuma, who scores an unbeaten 55 or 136 balls and does really well. If anything, his height helps him over here. And then he takes that brilliant catch of Akshar Patel towards the end when Akshar plays that cameo, and everyone started to dream that maybe India can, run away with a victory over here. I really felt like, that is the singular most important performance in this entire Test match that we need to talk about. So yeah, I mean, whoever's deciding these Player of the Match awards, I have a bone to pick with them.
I mean, anytime it goes to a bowler, it's the correct decision.
Yes, but what about a surface which already aids bowlers?
I think if Temba made runs in both innings, I'd agree with you, but he only made runs in one innings.
Washington's an interesting one for this, right? If Washington bowls like 10 overs and takes 1 wicket or 2 wickets, he probably wins this award, doesn't he? He's probably, so he's up there. I don't care about that. I am very happy about Temba Bavuma in general being much loved. And I love this new bit. I mean, I feel that Temba Bavuma's career has kind of, overlapped my career in a lot of ways. And I got a lot of flack back in the day from very angry, thick-necked South African white guys who were very upset at Temba Bavuma. And I feel that for someone like him, I've never actually met him, but I know we do have some friends in common. He just seems like a really thorough, professional, smart cricketer. It's hard not to admire him, and he's had to go through some shit that normal players don't have to go through. For him to come out the other side and have a game like this again, and the World Test Championship, and that walk, around the ground and everything, I just think it's just great. It's it's one, it's maybe one of the best storylines that's come out of South African cricket in a long time, and they've got a lot of great storylines at the moment as well.
It's been a fantastic time to be a South African cricket fan. Of course, they won the World Test Championship this year, lifted the mace, beat Australia of all teams. And now, after defeating Pakistan and Rawalpindi in a game where they lose the toss, which is very important, right? They've gone on to defeat India and go 1-0 up in this series. And just on Temba, for those of you who don't know, Jarrod's dad was known as the Lily of Campbellfield. And apparently the Lily of Campbellfield's son is the Temba Bavuma of cricket journalism. Now we know that. This is a really fun super chat by Ashwin. He says, Temba's win-loss percentage undefined because bro refuses to lose. I mean, he's captained South Africa in 11 test matches. He's drawn 1, and he's, come out as victorious in 10 test matches, which quite honestly is unreal. And
I don't think the videos come out yet. I don't think the video's come out yet, but I think the article has. So some people will have read it if they're subscribed and paid members on Substack. But we had the most improved player, which will come out tomorrow morning. So we'll put a video up on the main channel today. But also the most improved player was always going to go up tomorrow morning. And Temba was nominated twice. He was nominated in the last edition, and he was nominated in this one. Like, he's just getting better as a cricketer year on year. It's a remarkable thing. And you've got a guy who not that long ago, decided not to play in a game in a T20 World Cup because he shouldn't have been in the 11. Like, he really is just a brilliant modern leader in a way that we haven't seen. Someone who is willing to lead by example. He's not the greatest tactician. I don't think anyone would be like he's but he's brilliant at getting his players to do exactly what he wants them to do, and that's a big part of leadership as well.
Yeah, I mean, the way they kind of backed him throughout that previous cycle and the celebrations after lifting the mace. I mean, we all saw the videos and the song where his name is Temba, he comes from Langa, they ripped off the Belichao song. I love the arc, and I mean, I hope that he just continues to give us, more moments like these. And that's why I really feel like his knock and that partnership with Bosch is the reason why South Africa ultimately post a target of 124. And that's where it gets tricky. Anything above 100 is going to be tricky. And I mean, look, I'm a fan. And South African fans will be even, some of them will be kind of eating some humble pie, but the rest of them will be elated. And I'm happy for them.
Most of them will be elated now. The country's changed,
I mean,
right?
Sure, South Africa, have managed to defeat India over here, but you'd have to consider the fact that they had to take 18 wickets and not 20. Shubman Gill gets that whiplash injury on his neck after he smashes a 4, and then he doesn't bat again. And not only is he India's captain, and I know Pant did okay, and he was quite vocal and chirpy, Gill has been doing the job more often, and more importantly than his captaincy, he's their number 4 batter, and he has exceptional skills or batting prowess versus spin bowling. So that's a big, big blow.
I thought Behram was going to talk.
Sorry, I was just waiting. But yeah, so Gill would be a major blow. The other thing is, right, I think I was discussing on the group with the boys about this. If Gill goes out and they bring in another left-hander, and they have a Turner again, that goes even further in Harmer's favor. So it's like, that's why I was like, do they just emergency fly in Surfers because he's the only right-handed batter that they trust? Or I think I was talking to Rakshit about this. What are can we say there isn't a realistic possibility Nitish Kumar Reddy comes in for Gill? Are we saying that's not a possibility with knowing Gautam Gambhir?
I mean, he's looked at this team and gone, the problem is we don't have enough all-rounders. The problem is what we needed was a 7th bowling option, right? Not to use him, but just the threat of him to scare South Africa. I just want to pick up on something else that you said there, Behram, which I think is really, really interesting. I'm just trying to get the numbers right. But at the end of day 2, South Africa was 93 for 7, right?
Yep.
When did they lose their next wicket at 135? Yeah?
Yep.
At the end of day 1, India were 37 for 1, I want to say off the top of my head.
Yep.
And they lost their first wicket on day 2 at 75 for 2. I'd be very interested to know what was if there was just more moisture in the wicket in the morning, and so it actually played okay.
I've heard that the heavy roller meant that
I
it
was about to
easy
say.
bat at the start, yeah.
But if the heavy roller works, why doesn't it work for what's the start of India's second innings? Right, they lose like 2 wickets straight away, don't they?
Yeah.
In that chase, but it's just an interesting one that I wonder if India generally don't like the heavy roller. But they believe that the heavy roller actually on subcontinental wickets breaks the corners and makes it worse to bat on, right? I don't know if anyone's ever studied this. If only the BCCI had billions of dollars that they could put into actually working these things out. But anyway, Indian cricketers believe that. It'd be fascinating to me if India didn't take the heavy roller at the break of innings, and as I said, I wasn't up at that point. But I'd be very fascinated to see if that was the case as well, because it does look like there was slight respite at the beginning of day 2 and day 3 for batting for whatever reason. Maybe it could have been older ball as well, like it could have been the combination of the heavy roller and the older ball, or just the morning and a little bit more something else. But it's one of those games where you can just continue to look at for those little things, because so much went on. Right, it really was a game where, as you said, the Gill thing is massive, right? Like that's how many boundaries were even hit in this game, and the man had to basically broke his neck to play one, right? Like it's ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean, look, he is batting at number 4, and Varun, Washington does do his job with respect to delaying entry points over here, because he farms a lot of strike and plays out a lot of deliveries. I know he only bowls a solitary over, but I'm going to die on this hill.
That's helpful though.
No,
That's what I'm asking.
It's not the pitch where it's helpful. Maybe in Senna conditions to get in another fast bowler and still play Kuldeep, which we know he's never going to do, by the way, if Gautam Gambhir is coaching India in the New Zealand away series. But then again, I mean, look, he does his job with the bat. They don't test him with the ball. Shubman Gill is a big gaping hole that India never got to kind of fill. And then again, the margin of defeat is just 30 runs. So you could say that could have been, the difference.
I wonder if this is actually, this is going to sound a bit random, that I don't think they should have played Washington at first drop, obviously, on this wicket in this situation. Yeah. I'm not completely against the false 3, but as I talked about with Robbie, I just don't see it as a thing that you would do in Asia. Having said that, this wicket wasn't from Asia, it was from Venus, so maybe you do it on this one. But I do wonder if this is the kind of pitch that actually might help a person who's not a specialist batter. Because Washi he actually reminds me a lot of Ben Stokes. And I said this a lot during commentary last year, in that his batting is not fully developed like a normal human batter, right? But he is very good at going, oh, okay, on this wicket, I need to do this. And on this situation, I need to do this, right? And a normal batter can't do that, because they're like, oh, I've got to work in a partnership, and I've got to think about this, and I've got to get off strike. Whereas Ben Stokes and Washi, because they grew up bowling a lot in their life, they're just like, no, my job right now is to play this shot until it doesn't work, and then I change to a different method, right? So I do wonder if they ended up, I'm not sure they win this test match with a specialist number 3. Right? Like they may not have been in a better situation. Having said that, you cannot plan for a pitch like this because it's fucking batshit, right? So they should not take that as a victory in any way.
Yeah, I mean, that is always going to be the biggest talking point, I suppose. And India need to sort this shit out quick, because when we, covered the England series, when England toured, we were convinced that balanced tracks are the way forward. And then we saw the loss to New Zealand, and now this, where, initially, I thought this was a great toss to lose, because Varun had convinced me that the seamers are going to be in this game, pretty heavily. And Bumrah proves that theory correct by striking, 5 times for 27 runs. But then again, even at the end of day 2, a lot of us thought that South Africa are going to fold early. It's that Bosch and Bavuma partnership which really changes everything. And also, great catching game for a change, right? Just 1 dropped catch per team. That never happens.
Yeah. And especially when it was seam bowlers, because seam bowlers are probably where you're expecting a few of those drops to come in. Was it the KL Rahul catch off? It wasn't Bosch. Who batted before Bosch? Was it Marco Janssen when he played the sweep? And I saw that 4 times. I still didn't think he hit that. Like, I kept watching it go, why is he walking? I would be standing there for that. What is happening? But that is a remarkable catch, because there's no way it slipped. You're ready for that. He's playing the sweep, so you're automatically not really assuming the ball's coming to you. And then it comes to you in such a weird way as well. It was a brilliant test match from that point of view, I think. I think it was sensational. Just to get back to what you were saying before. You said that we were on the pitches being even back in the England series. I've kind of been talking about this for a very, very long time, basically from 2016 onwards. I know they didn't always do it after 2016, But the point being is, I think I'd love to talk to, someone like, Rohit or Virat or Ashwin about this, right? There's absolutely no doubt that they, in those conditions, were so far and away the best team in the world. Did they was it the Ahmedabad test match where they didn't have their full bowling lineup, freaked them out so much that they just decided that they were going to go all in on this other theory? Whereas I think
it was Chennai.
Was it Chennai? Was it? Sorry, yeah, you're right.
The first test for Chennai, then
you're right. I remember that's where they were, but I couldn't remember exactly which order. But did that test match freak them out so much? But that test match, they didn't have their full bowling lineup, right? And I also think the toss played a part. So would they argue, and this is the thing that you need to talk to, would they argue that if you make the pitches normal, the toss becomes a little bit more important in some of those situations, and we might still lose as many test matches as we are at the moment? They might be right. I don't know. Again, if only they had an organization with billions of dollars to try and work some of these things out.
Yeah, but the argument I'd make is in 2016, England make 400 twice batting first, and one of those times they lost by an innings. So, if you're in India, why are you worried about that?
I mean, I'm still with you. That's what I'm saying. I still think we're right. We might not be, but I still think we're right based on this. I just think you're just opening this up to maybe they got away with a few. Ajaz Patel takes a 10 wicket innings, right? And New Zealand still lose that game. Yeah. So there are signs
by an innings.
Yeah. So there are signs that there are some. I just don't think you want to make a pitch that Ajaz Patel takes all 10 wickets in the innings. I think there's something going on in that sort of situation where you're a much more balanced side where you have a wrist spinner. If it's flat, you still have a wrist spinner, right? You still have a Bumrah. You have so many other things going for you. I just, and maybe I'm misunderstanding it, but I'd love for them to sit down and explain it to me. I remember talking to Jimenez about it because I said, I figured it was partly because their bowlers were getting old, right? And it's let's just make the test matches shorter. And he's like, that was never mentioned. And so if that's not mentioned and it's all about just winning test matches, it feels like it stopped working, guys. And it also feels like maybe they should have lost more test matches from this method anyway.
Also, if you want to, have this sort of a shootout wicket and you're playing four spinners, especially making room for four spinners by having Washington as a false three, then you use your four spinners, right?
Yeah.
And your spinners don't really have a great game. It's Bumrah who does the damage in the first innings. And sure, Jadeja takes 4 for 50 in the third. But, at least when you play four spinners, you'd think that the majority of the wickets are taken by those spinners. So that's another thing that I suppose needs to be mentioned.
I've got one for you too, Behram, about Pakistan here, right?
Yeah.
We both thought that. So Pakistan basically tried wickets that helped seam bowlers. That didn't really help them. They tried all those flat wickets, which didn't help It didn't help humanity, those flat wickets. They were just horrendous, right?
Yeah.
And then we both thought maybe they don't have the spinners to pull off the ragging wickets. And they have lost the test match to West Indies they should have won, right? And they've lost that one to South Africa as well. But overall, they're actually winning games now. So you would have to say that has worked for them. You look at these two teams on paper, right? And you're like, one team needs to have ragging pitches to be a success at home, even if they're not a massive success, but any success at home. And the other team just does not need to do that, right? It doesn't make any sense for India to continue to do this. Whereas in Pakistan, until things change, you'd be like, the next 3 or 4 years, they probably should continue that.
Yeah, I mean, it is fascinating. Of course, the quality or gulf in, quality between both sides has a role to play over here. Pakistan are struggling at Test cricket and they weren't winning anything, right? I mean, those roads are worse than shootout pitches any day of the week. And they initially, use a used surface versus England. Then they bring out the heaters and fans in Rawalpindi and, turn that road into, a rank turner. And in Multan, it's like proper dust bowls. This time around, I felt like Pakistan had better services. They lose that test match because they can't clean up South Africa's tail. However, if you watch those tests, there were good phases for batting at the start, right? If you're batting in the first innings, you should be getting 300, 350, potentially 400. Then
can I give you I will actually give you a point here. They probably should have had the rank turners for South Africa, and they should have had normal pitches for West Indies.
I mean, Pakistan can't play slow left armers. You bring on Senaran Muthusamy and Keshav Maharaj, they're done. They're toast. So that's another angle.
Yeah, so maybe they can't. But you know what I mean? I think if you're playing a good team, this is what I'm saying again. If you're playing a team you think is at your level or even better than you want to up the volatility of the results and just be like, let's just see how this lands, right? If you're playing a team who's worse than you, right, you should be going, We just need a pitch that's slightly in our favor, and over the period of the game, we might fall behind once or twice during the game, but then we'll be able to pull it back. That's my point. I just think there's a bit of a madness to doing it just all the time.
Yeah.
And did they draw that series against West Indies? I think they did, didn't they?
Yeah, they drew that series.
You
versus
shouldn't be
the West
drawing that
Indies,
fucking
but-
series.
Yeah, those were proper dust bowls. These surfaces versus South Africa, though, like I said, there was something in it for the batters in the first 2 innings. There was turn from the start, but it never got like violent as
wasn't
the
like the
test
others,
match
you're right.
progressed.
That's
It
fair.
was okay turn, right? If you applied yourself, you could play well. Like South Africa swept in reverse, swept really, really well. And then, of course, there was reverse swing on offer, which is something Pakistan needs. I feel you really, really need that surface to reverse, and you need the conditions to be dry. But India, they didn't need to do anything extravagant versus South Africa or most teams, which is the main, kind of pain point over here that none of us will ever understand. Anyway, Varun, we've got a shit ton of super chats. If we don't start now, this show will never end. So start. All right. Samit Khan says Rabada, Janssen, Bosch, Maharaj, Harmer, and Muthusamy. Is this the best attack to tour India in the last decade? What are the odds of South Africa winning the series? Bavuma, the best captain leader currently? I mean, these are like 3 super chats, Samit, but Jarrod, fire away.
The bowling attack's interesting, isn't it? I think they've got a lot of different options, and I think that
I imagine it's the best spin attack
is it. You think it's the best spin attack?
in the last decade. Yeah,
Who's this? What's the second best spin attack?
Steve
Australia.
O'Keefe and Nathan Lyon?
Kuhneman,
Lyon,
Murphy, Lyon.
But I don't think any of the second or third spinners are as good as Harmer.
No, I think that's probably fair. I don't think I have Bosch. Like Bosch is
Bosch is like the wrong choice here.
Yeah, I mean, you have to include him in this message. He's not wrong to include him. But yeah, look, we know that Rabada has done some good damage in Asia, and that Marco Janssen is used to bowling there as well. So I think there's a lot of different factors to their bowling that I like. The New Zealand attack, of course, was great because it had Mitch Santner, and we all knew he was going to be the best bowler in the world. So
Indeed.
And it is common knowledge to know that you don't schedule a test match at the Wankhede when Ajaz Patel could play in it. You just don't do that.
That was a rookie mistake. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, I do think that Bavuma is a great leader, but to Jared's point, I think tactically he does make a few mistakes. Those don't matter. He's the reigning World Test champion captain, right?
As I said before, he does the stuff that you don't see. The team is genuinely 100% behind him in a way that very few other teams are in the world, right? Like him and Pat Cummins are both not tactical geniuses, but they are both very thorough professionals who do the tactics. Maybe they're not as good as Ben Stokes as just changing it on the field, or Rohit Sharma changing it on the field, but their players would run through brick walls for them, right? Like they really are.
They're not radical in that sense. They are more pragmatic. But I felt that not playing Muthusamy was actually not like it was a bad move. It didn't matter in the end. And what are the odds of South Africa winning the series? That largely depends on what sort of surface we get in Guwahati. We're going to get another weird time zone game, by the way. We're going further east now, aren't we, Varun? In the same time zone?
Yeah. Also, they swapped the sessions, right? It's like it's like
Tea
there's
first.
tea before lunch now, right? Yeah.
Yup. That's happening. The 1800s lords and gentlemen will really be losing their shit in their graves.
Like I would
Anyway.
suggest both these test matches should have been pink ball test matches, but if we had the pink ball, this test match might have lasted a session.
Yeah.
So I don't have to feel about that anymore, right?
Yeah, fair enough. Anyway, let's move on. We've got Samit once again who says, last 15 months, best time to be a Proteas fan. Absolutely. Cannot argue with that. Although they have lost some finals as well. I mean,
Yeah,
the T20
but
World
they've
Cup,
made finals,
ODI
dude.
World Cup.
They didn't used to make finals. What are you talking about? That's already a fucking up for them.
True. So 4 finals, 1 victory, and now a test match victory in India and Pakistan as well. Those weren't conditions in their favor. So that's pretty good stuff.
I think it's been massive for them. And also coming off, we thought that they'd given up Test cricket a year ago, right? Like they've, everything has gone backwards and flipped on itself. We're probably doing a video on this as well because I think it's a fascinating thing when you look at the history of South African cricket. It's probably never had a period like this before. That is true. And yet they've probably had better teams in this as well. So it's a really random sort of thing. And also they've never had the men and the women good at the same time. Like it's all these different things are happening. I think they might have had one period around the year 2000 where the men and the women were good because I think the women have one good tournament. So it's across genders, everything's going on.
Yeah, and plus, to think of South African fans, what they've gone through, and now they're finally getting their rewards. I feel like it's just a great story overall. And even though they've lost 3 finals, like Jarrod said, they haven't made many finals. So there's that. And who would have thought this would be the reality after they threw away that series versus New Zealand? Right? Samit Khan, once again, it's a super chat day for him. He says South Africa's win in Kolkata today without Rabada, where does it rank among their great away wins? Better than SCG 94 or epic MCG 08? I'd still think MCG 08 is bigger than this.
SCG 94 is a crazy match, isn't it? But that's also kind of just before we know Australia's the best team in the world. I think we kind of think they're the best team in the world. And Australia did have a history at that point, or at least a fear that they were very bad in low chases and everything else. But that was a miraculous win. I'm trying to think, they must have had some other pretty good wins in their time, but I can't think of any. Didn't they would have won some pretty good games against India in that period when they didn't lose away from home. They must have won some pretty good games.
They drew a series, or they drew 2 series in India, 1-1 in like the late 2000s. Yep.
So
can't forget those either.
They've got a couple, but yeah, he's right. Without Rabada, it is miraculous.
I think it has to be the Aussie games, because that's probably their best rivalry, isn't it?
Yeah. Also, I would say that if this test had happened before the New Zealand series, we would rank it higher. But because it's happened after India have lost that series, there is an element of, you're supposed to beat India in India.
That's true.
Yeah. Anyway, what's the next super chat? It's from Kaushik Iyer. He says, honestly, Gautam Gambhir needs to go from the red ball team. All mouth, no results. We have only won against BG, Bangladesh and West Indies in this cycle. He's not a good test coach. I don't get the obsession with all-rounders to the point where India had batting till 9 in this game. Even if you are, slotting in Washington as a false 3, that means you'd probably want to get some specialists in, and it's probably not a good ploy in Asia. There's a lot of stuff that doesn't quite sit well with me with respect to Gautam Gambhir, the red ball coach.
I don't have an issue with him with the New Zealand series. I think people were like very critical of him. I'm like, it's the New Zealand series for the one series. I'm like, he did nothing wrong as a coach. In fact, like, he was the one who brought Washington back from like nowhere into the selection. So I'm like, it's just that we didn't know it at the time. It's just everyone just went out of form at the same time, and everyone was just washed at the same time. Like, I would say the New Zealand series isn't on him.
I thought they fought back well in England too, didn't they?
Yeah, but I think with England, you can be critical of his team selections. That's probably what I would
that's
say.
also true.
Shardul, right?
Yeah.
Did Shardul get 2 test matches in England and Kuldeep got none, right? Had this super chat come to us like 3 months ago, I would have assumed that Kaushik is an alt account of Kuldeep Yadav from Singapore, right?
So here's my thing is that we knew this team was in transition from the moment the New Zealand series happened, but we kind of knew that the transition was coming anyway. We should have expected different results than beforehand. So you can't just say he's not a good red ball coach because of the results. So this whole thing, we've only won against Bangladesh and West Indies, I would throw that out, right? I would never mention that. But you can say that he has been random with his coaching in a way that perhaps a team as good as India has not needed. Right. And as Varun said, the selections, Behram talked about, having 6 bowlers and not even being able to use them and all these sorts of things. I do think there's an element of, it doesn't feel like he's completely in control of this side, but I would have thought that India would have had a regression because they were so good beforehand. And, they were, once you break up that incredible group, it was always going to be a little bit easier to beat them. That isn't the issue I would have. The issue I would have is that he has a lot of very strong opinions, as we know, as a man. And at the moment, they don't always seem to be playing off correctly, right? And he's trying to play on patriotism and all this sort of stuff. Was that one of like losing hurts more than an injury and all those sorts of things? And it's like, you're actually setting yourself up to fail if that's the case, because you shouldn't be winning as much at the moment, right? Like what you really want from a coach at the moment is, we're going through a transition and we don't have all the answers at the moment. We're trying out this and we're going to see how that goes. And then we're going to try out this and we'll see how that goes. That's how a normal professional coach would be handling these. And instead he's going the other way of like, there are no demons. I see no demons. Like
we wanted this pitch.
Yeah. So I think that's the wrong way of going about it. I think you need to be realistic and be like, look, you can almost go the whole, I don't know, maybe, the Alan Border, Bob Simpson method of being like, we know we are not as good as we were, in our previous past. Give us the time, because we are trying to create not a team that wins in the next 2 years, but a team that wins for the next 20 years. right? That's what I would be saying if I was doing this. Unfortunately, that's not really how the social media time zones work anymore. But that's what I would be saying. Honestly, if I was the analyst for India, that's what I would be saying at the moment is I don't care if we lose a couple of test matches to South Africa, right? What I want to do is I think we have enough talent here to dominate cricket for the next 15 or 20 years, but we want to lay the building blocks of that now.
Yeah, I mean, that definitely checks out. But we all know how Gautam Gambhir operates. And, sometimes I feel like that sort of mentality where you're really kind of pumping your boys up with patriotism and all of that, it could work at times, Maybe
it does work.
For some units, that really is helpful. But at times when it comes to tactics and you're just saying out words and, there are no demons, batters should be able to apply themselves better. Come on, dude. Everyone knows that this was a tough pitch.
I've talked about this before, but, Brad Hodge told me about once every 10 to 15 games, you get to make the speech, right? The El Pacino speech from Any Given Sunday, right? If you try and give that speech every game, the players tune out. And if you look at what happened with England and Andy Flower, I think Andy Flower's a better coach now than when he coached England. Eventually, I talked to all the players and they were like, we just started tuning him out because it was the same. He wanted this, unreal level of the way he wanted us to live our life and to be tuned up for every particular game. And eventually we were just like, yeah, we just want to know how to fix our techniques. And we just want to, chill out and relax and then come back and play really hard and all this sort of stuff. So you've got to understand that this, I think fans want a coach who will sit there yelling and screaming and like they're bleeding for their country, right? Because that looks really good. That's actually not generally the best situation for a team. You kind of want one assistant coach who does that a little bit from time to time, or one head coach who does it. The rest of the time, you actually want to be set up for professional success. This is what this is. Yeah. This is their job. They don't want to be in a situation where anytime it goes wrong, that the Australian team got rid of Justin Langer because they were literally sick and tired of him coming and going, you got to do it for the baggy green. And they were like, we need to know exactly how to win this game. Stop yelling at us, right?
Sometimes we will get a review wrong. Sometimes we wouldn't have hit the ball and we'll still not review it. Don't make us feel shittier about it. Right?
Exactly. And so you've got to understand that is a part of it. Every professional athlete's used to being chewed out by a coach, right? They understand that. But they also are in their work environment and they're becoming adults, right? And so, as I said before, you've got to learn how to balance these things. And this is part of the problem with Gautam Gambhir as a coach. Why I was worried in the first place is he wasn't a coach. It's much easier when you are that other job, when you only have to come in when things are on fire, right? Anyone could be a consultant. Lots of us have the skills to be a consultant. Very few of us have the skills to be a CEO because that's a very different job, right? And that's the thing. And I'm not having a go at him because he might still become really, really good at this. He's learning on the job and everything else. But that's where you are with Gautam Gambhir is you have a team in transition and you have a coach in transition, both at the same time.
Yeah, plus his white ball success has been quite decorated thus far. Yeah. Anyway, enough time spent on Gautam Gambhir. And we've got another super chat on Gautam Gambhir. Kaushal says, should they fire Gautam Gambhir if there is 2 clean sweeps at home within a year? Is Gautam Gambhir like a CEO who lives in the past, unable to see changing business climate? I don't know how to answer that one.
I can answer that one easy. I just said he's like a McKinsey consultant, right? Who comes in. Look, it's going to be hard for him to have his job. I thought if they got smashed in England, he would have lost his Red Bull job, right? I think it's going to be really hard for him to keep his job if they lose this series as well. I don't think, as I said, that is not how I would run them, but that is how the Indian cricket world works, right? That's how the system is at the moment. And so I think it's going to be very hard for him to keep control of that team. But surely they keep him around for white ball cricket though, don't they?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's no reason not to. I think Varun is just silent because he probably has other ideas.
He's just trying to press the buttons.
Abhilash with a super chat says Gautam Gambhir should draft Nitish and Shivam Dubey instead of Bumrah and Siraj. Bat till 11, bowl till 1. Jarrod, this test was boring. In no way was it entertaining. Are you kidding me? Like, it was hella entertaining, dude. I like the joke though. I appreciate the joke.
Yeah. No, not boring at all. Go all in with all-rounders. I think I came up with an 11 a couple of years ago on one of the channels where I was like, they could do that if they wanted to. It was like Boomer and everyone else. So I was there. I was the Gautam Gambhir of 4 years ago, which is a phrase I may never say again. Although I also, enjoy demons.
We should do a quick pick someday on the best ever Test 11 in history, but you got them Gambhir and you're picking it. Anyway, next super chat, please, Varun. All right, what do we have over here? We have Ashutosh Kasalkar, who asks, this match opens up the World Test Championship cycle even more. Jarrod gave this series 2-0 to India in the World Test Championship prediction video. I mean, at this point, you should ignore all these videos that Jarrod has done because Test cricket is so random. The results are even randomer that anything can happen. But
I think this year was when I did it. And look, you've got to be realistic. I think that India were going to start both these games as favourites. That's kind of what I'm saying in that. In that, occasionally I'm making some judgment calls. But yeah, I mean, Behram's right. Like when I first started doing the World Test Championship, I think I picked the first final. I just picked the exact teams who were going to make it. I don't think I would be able to do that at the moment. The teams are much more even, right? And you're getting all these random wacky pitches occasionally, and the wobble ball and the spinners in Asia are changing things so randomly that, it's really hard to make these predictions anymore. When West Indies beat Pakistan, that would have been previous cycle though, wouldn't it?
yes, that was previous cycle.
I think I gave South Africa one game in Pakistan, although Ashutosh might
Although,
remember.
to be fair to you, Jarrod, there's no way anyone could have predicted what happened in 2024.
No, that's what I mean. It's so it has come to a point where this last 15 months, 20 months, whatever you want to say in Test cricket, has been the most engaging and random that we have ever seen.
Yeah.
Yes.
Anyway, before we take another super chat, I think we should take a break as well. You guys are watching Good Areas Live with Behram, Jarrod, and Varun, and we'll be back in like half a minute very shortly, so go nowhere. And play the ad.
Ross Taylor couldn't
Not
see
again.
at night or when the clouds were in. Eventually, he had to see an eye specialist who would fix his eyesight. In the 2 years before the change, he still averaged more than 50 in international cricket. The top level of batting talent can basically see in the dark. That is who we are talking about in our new book, The Art of Batting. Head over and order your copy today.
Welcome back to Good Areas Live. You guys are with Jarrod, Behram, and Varun, and we've got a few more super chats to take. So fire them away, Varun. We've got Andy, 1999. He says or asks, do you see the bonus of a contender in CSK? Or the bones of a contender in CSK. I was like, what bonus?
We did
I
the
need
show
to see who
yesterday.
they buy at the auction before I can answer that.
Yeah, I think I'm the same. I want to see what direction they go in the auction. If you're talking about the bones of contender, yes. There's a couple. It's hard at the moment because all the teams kind of look a bit naked. So it's all the teams look the same. We're waiting to see what happens next.
Fair. VDD212 asks, Virat was really an outlier for Indian Test cricket. The man loses only 2 home tests in his tenure, one against Prime Smith and other because of Root. I mean, that was a great Indian team as well. I'm not taking anything away from Virat, the captain, but this is a different Indian team, and you expect them to stutter.
I mean, Virat did some great things, but if you're just, this is where we get back to what we talked about before. If you just look at the results in that way, you're not really understanding it. This is, and I have said this a million times on this channel, it's the streak war paradox, right? Where you're basically saying that Steve Waugh is a better captain than he's streak because he won more test matches. And that's not how these things work, right? The teams make a huge difference there. But
I just hate Virat, Jarrod.
But Virat's also great. So, I mean, I don't care. I'm okay with that too.
Yeah. I mean, Virat wouldn't be playing so many all-rounders because he wanted 20 wickets. I'll give you that, VDD2.
The irony is he was the first one who played 5 bowlers most consistently for India.
Yeah?
To be fair, Dhoni was desperate to, right? He just, like, Dhoni just Stuart Binney. Like, he was so desperate to do it, and it just didn't work for him.
Yeah. Anyway, now we've got Ronaldo Better 7702. He says, this whole red ball Indian ecosystem needs a reality check. They are not as good, talented as people make it seem like. South Africa Z overall is a better team. Come on, dude. This was South Africa A minus Rabada. I don't think that's a fair call at all. India are talented.
Is that South
It's just
Africa's
that-
just Saz? Like, I
I
don't
think
know.
he's just saying, I don't think he's saying South Africa's there at 11.
Yeah.
What's Saz?
I
Oh,
don't know,
South
could it be-
Africa's?
South Africa's? No,
I don't know.
Okay.
No, I don't think it needs a reality check. As I said before, they should be going through a transition. They should be losing more games at the moment. They are as talented as people make out. clawed pretty well against Australia in what was again a pretty random, weird series when you think
Yeah,
back on
they
it.
clawed against them when Rohit was making negative runs and Virat kept edging everything, right? So
Right,
it's like,
and against England, they got themselves into a shit position and worked their way all the way back into that series. No matter how you rank these sides, Australia, South Africa, England, those are along with India, probably the best test sides in the world at the moment, right? So
Yeah.
I think I think it's fine to think where they are, but we all said there was going to be a downturn, Ronald, and there's been a downturn. Like, I don't know what people are expecting here. The idea, we were looking at it a while back of there was two chances. There was either India become like the West Indies and they just they swap generations without a problem, or they do what Australia did. Australia had what? A 3-year dip? Longer than that. Like a 4, 5, 6-year dip before coming back 2007 till 2013-14 before they become that Australian team again, right? It's hard to go from generation to generation without having any sort of blips, and that's what India's had.
Yeah, it was either dynasty or downturn, and we've seen downturn. Now, next super chat is by Bageshwaran. I think I've got your name right. He asks, Ashwin on YouTube said Kolkata was not suitable for this type of pitch preparation. He also said Pune pitch was also not conducive for this type of pitch preparation, hence backfired. Any historical example like this? I mean, Jarrod just said at the start of this podcast that when you try to doctor a surface in the sense that you want it to play differently than the way it usually plays, sometimes it goes wrong. And that's why Saurav Ganguly has come out and said that, look, they asked for a drier surface, so we didn't water it. It was drier than usual. And Varun said that this was basically a day 4, day 5 Kolkata pitch with a lot of bounce at times.
Most of the pitches in the world where you try and do something like that. So if you want to go back, Magesh, to one that's recent, it's the Perth test, India-Australia. They were terrified that what kept happening was that whoever batted first would make like 500. And they would basically win the test. So they were like, okay, so we're going to put a little bit more grass on the wicket. And what happens? Australia's bowled out for 12, right? So when you do that, that's where the issue is. And it's really, really hard. And generally the groundsman will tell the people in charge of like, this may not work, right? I'm pretty sure the Cape Town curator did the same thing. I'm pretty sure the Perth curator said the same thing. Some of these Indian curators have said similar things privately of like, we told them it wouldn't work, but they asked for it anyway.
Yeah. All right, next super chat is by Upamanyu. He says, Easwaran at first drop can easily play at number 3. The team needs batting stability. The last time India lost so many tests in such a short span at home was pre-2001 Kolkata. This team cannot play spin. They do struggle versus spin on ranked earners. We've done a lot of work on this. If you go into the archives, you'll find those pieces and videos. Also, yes, we've also been saying that these days the number 3 batting spot in Test cricket is so volatile that teams could potentially, give that role to an opening batter. And that's what you're suggesting over here. There's no reason to say that would fail, but you can also not say with any guarantee that it would succeed.
So Abhimanyu Ishwaran's issue is he's not made any runs for India A, so I don't think they rate him very highly. So, but yeah.
And this team cannot play spin. We have shown that the guys who were playing spin fine before started playing spin poorly when the wickets
Also,
changed. It's in the data, man. You just need to look it up.
Yeah, also we should say that India had 7 batters and 3 of them were bowling around us. Like, did we expect them to be great players of spin?
True.
If you're not picking specialists, sometimes it's the old South Africa team in the 90s, right? Where sometimes Australia would run through them just because it was a specialist going up against a non-specialist. What do you expect is going to happen?
Yeah, true. Wesley asks, a 6'8" fast bowler creates his own problems. Marco Jansen is a unique bowler. Maybe only Bruce Reid has been similar in Test cricket. Well, Bruce Reid also had an awkward action, whereas Marco Jansen is pretty smooth all the way through. But look, he's always going to generate extra bounce. Over here, he had a lot of bounce on offer at times because there was variable bounce in the conditions. So they did activate Jansen. There is a lot of truth to that.
Yeah, the pitch certainly helped him. The thing with Jansen is he's more complete than Bruce Reid. So I remember talking to Chris Broad about Bruce Reid, and he said that he was quite good, but I'm trying to remember. I think he could seam the ball for a little while, and then he basically just bowled bounce spells, right? Whereas Marco Jansen's probably a little bit more, he can swing the ball, he can reverse the ball, he can seam the ball around a little bit. So he's a little bit more useful than Bruce Reid, but Bruce Reid was absolutely brilliant at what he did. But yeah, I mean, It's not that long ago that Joel Garner was an outlier on height, and now he's not. There are heaps of bowlers around at his height at the moment, right? But left armers, Bruce Reid has been on his own for a long time as one of the few truly tall, fast left armers. Mohamed Irfan gave us a go, but didn't quite make it. We've had a couple of other 6'3", 6'4", 6'5" fast bowlers, but there's a big difference between 6'4" and 6'8". Right? It really is, especially if you are in a situation like Bruce Reid or Michael Janssen where you're keeping your height.
True. Okay, let's see how many we've got left, because it seems like there are a lot of these super chats. Thank you so much, by the way, guys. These do
We
help.
have 11.
Wow. V9D212 once again asks Virat, or he's basically just saying that Virat was the only one who took Test cricket seriously, and that's what influenced others, so team could come back from any situation. Before him, Dhoni, and after him, Rohit also struggled to do the same. Again, dude, I feel like a lot of these, all of these people do take Test cricket seriously.
Yeah.
This is just an easy narrative, right? Like, there's nothing
This is
more
not
to
what's
it. I'm
happening.
not.
These are all
I'm not
professionals.
saying
All of them
Virat
take
is a
it
bad
seriously.
captain. Of course, Virat is a great captain. He was a great spokesperson for Test cricket as
Love
a whole
Test
as
cricket.
well. Yeah, the way when he spoke about Test cricket, we were all listening, and I do respect him for going for 20 wickets. But this is not all about captaincy.
Yeah. This is nothing about captaincy. We need to move on from that. That's not what's happening here.
Yeah. Abhilash once again says, or asks Jarrod, can it be a case where teams were unaware of how to bowl and now they've caught up? India always attached the stumps at home, or attacked the stumps at home, but other teams never did that consistently. New Zealand changed that.
It's not just that, right? We saw bowlers, spinners are bowling faster now. Teams are actually specifically picking to suit Indian conditions. We don't have, it's not like, okay, let's just pick the two guys who have the most domestic success for us, right? It's also that. Also, we also have to say the batting lineups are just not as great as they were in the past for India. I think there has definitely been a regression. I think people overplay that, but you can't deny that there hasn't been anything, right?
I think that teams now know exactly what it takes to win in every country on earth. And so they are much more particular in how. Look at England's bowling lineup at the moment. It's Bryden Cast, Jofra Archer, Josh Tongue, Mark Wood, and Gus Atkinson. That's a more Australian bowling attack than Australia has had at times. Right? Teams are really specific now when they are going to other countries of what works there and what doesn't. So that's going to be the same in India as everywhere else. So I actually don't think New Zealand changed that. England had the same plan. It's just that New Zealand had England had Hartley and whoever the other guy was. Was it Rehan Ahmed? No, who was the
Rehan
second?
Ahmed, Bashir.
Bashir.
They had Leach for
Bashir
Test,
and
I
Bashir,
think.
right?
Yeah.
So the difference is that in New Zealand were there with two adult professional cricketers, right? Not young
I mean,
kids.
didn't
trying to learn
Australia
what
do
they were
that
doing.
too? They had Murphy and Kuna.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
for
I mean,
India,
everyone's doing it now. It's
Also,
it's just what teams do now.
just do take, or keep this in mind, that we've named so many of these random spinners, but Simon Harmer is a legend at Essex who's got over 1,000 first class
Simon
wickets,
Harmer is a
right?
much better cricketer than what we're talking about
Yeah.
here. He's a
Yep.
clear step above that. Simon Harmer would be not that far. I don't think Simon Harmer is that much less talented than Nathan Lyon, right? And probably more suited to Asia than Nathan Lyon as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, who do we have up next? We've got Naveen Paidi. He asks, on the few positives, Washington's stocks have risen massively, have they? Will he be a mainstay in both home and away? He is a mainstay thus far. We saw him play in England, and now we're seeing him play in India. How they use him is going to be key, because I feel like come Sena test matches, if you want to free up space for more specialists and play Kuldeep as well, then this false 3 thing really works. But I feel like Gautam Gambhir will always want to batter at 8. That's the catch.
Yeah, might be. Look, I think Washington now is this if not an automatic selection, that he's going to play at least 85% of the test matches. The issue that he's going to have is the Moeen Ali issue, right? Of like, what does he think he is as a cricketer, and what does India think he is as a cricketer? And also, is he willing to change positions on a whim, moment after moment?
True. Let's see how that kind of pans out. We've got the scene uploader 9936. He says, from what I remember, Guwahati has been the most unbattable pitch across formats and genders. Add doctoring to it, and I can't wait to see Sachin's dream of the 25-over test disguised as an ODI come true. That is hilarious.
That sounds fun.
We saw some tricky surfaces in Guwahati at the start of the Women's ODI World Cup, and then it got flat afterwards. So I'd actually have no idea what to expect.
Yeah.
But then again,
it doesn't look like the sort of wicket you want to muck around with, though. I just look. It looks like a volatile surface to me, as in. If you watch a series where you have like two completely different kind of batting surfaces within the same series, it feels like to me you just need to be a little bit gentle and a little bit careful to make sure that it works.
Yeah. Okay. Let's move on to the next one. We've got Andy once again. He says Gambhir only has two ideas: batting deep and left-right combinations. Lot of bluster, not much substance. He's got the gig because of his connections. I mean, the two things that you've pointed out are very correct, is what I'll say. The rest I'll leave it to these guys.
Can I just... I mean, obviously, I talked about the fact of his connections and why he got the job originally, right? So we don't need to go over that. When you say he's only got two ideas, do you know how many coaches don't have clear ideas like that when they take these jobs? Like if I've never been on the interview panel for a coaching position, but I have talked to coaches that were going to be hired before. You'd be shocked how many coaches do not have a clear idea of what they are going to do. To have someone to come in to be like, this is what I like, this is what we are going to do, this is why we are going to do it, is one of the reasons you hire coaches. Right. And so it's all well. How many ideas do you want him to have in Test cricket? I'm not sure how many more. That I would almost argue he had too many ideas. Maybe he should have just gone with one or the other in this, rather than trying to do both.
To be fair to him, I think like it made sense to have right lefts on this pitch because you like one of them would counter the
this is probably the one pitch where it made sense.
Yeah, this year they just ran out of right-handers, I think.
Yeah.
Like
Also,
they just kept feeding harm with all the lefties.
Both those things really do work in white ball cricket, I feel. Batting deep and left-right
Yeah, and
combinations.
that might be it. He might ultimately be wrong. I'm not that big a fan on the right-hand, left-hand combination thing, but the way that teams think now, it is so hard not to do it because if you don't do it, a team will just load up with one kind of bowler against you now, right? So it's much trickier to not do that. I don't know if Dane Pete is in the squad. I haven't looked at their squad, but if there was extra left-handers, let's say they knew that India was going to play extra left-handers, wouldn't you just bring Dane Pete as well and just be like, good luck?
Yeah, that is quite a fascinating theory. They would definitely do that, I feel. Anyways, Samit Khan once again says, pound for pound, is Shukri Conrad the best coach currently? I mean, he's the most successful coach in the recent past. So I'm fine.
I think he's got a lot out of a team that was struggling for a while. So you have to give him that credit. I think that I always said with South Africa that their bowling was so good. All they needed was semi-competent batting and there was a good side there. So he's made their batting semi-competent. I think the selectors, I think all of South Africa cricket has really worked together quite well over the last couple of years to fix what was a shit time. They were really bad not that long ago.
True. Okay, last few super chats coming up. We've got Ohon SSBDDH. Seriously, guys, just use your names. If Gautam Gambhir loses the T20 World Cup, he has to go. You have to win all the time. If you want to coach India, you can stay as India coach with patriotism. You lose, you out. I mean, he's won some things.
Yeah, if you do this, if this is the way that you do things, then you're not going to get as much success as you want out of a team. You will end up getting a lot more losses. So there's an Indian owner of an NBA team, Sacramento Kings, and they change their coach about every 8 minutes, right? And they are fucking shit, and they have been fucking shit for ages.
See Punjab Kings in the IPL.
Yeah, it doesn't work.
Look at Pakistan.
It is a terrible way of doing things. What you should be doing, and you can argue that Gambhir was still the wrong person in this. What you should be doing is going out of your way to make sure that you put the right person in the job to begin with, and then you have realistic expectations of what you should be doing. And if it's marginally below that, but there are other things going forward, you go, that's fair, right? If he's not doing that, right, and the team's doing really, really poorly, and you can then say, actually, okay, we've got an issue. But if you change the coach every year and a half because you're not winning all the time, you will end up being 20% worse than what you should be as a team. I promise you. It is the worst possible idea because what coaches start to do is what politicians do. They will try and play to make sure they keep the job. You do not want that. As I said before, India's big plan, if I was running them, would be, can we dominate for 20 years? Can we do a West Indies? I think we can. How do we set that up? If your big plan is to win every single match, that's absolute nonsense.
Yeah, but
you
saying
can't win every World
Cup. But if India get whitewashed this series and they lose the T20 World Cup, I assume he will go.
I think he'll go anyway.
At that point, they'll bin him.
Yeah. I mean, he's lost too much already.
Yeah.
Rahul Srinivas asks, shouldn't people like VVS Lakshman be coaching India? Didn't he have a stint in one of these series?
I thought he coached an A team, didn't he?
Yeah, he's not the A-team coach anymore, I think. So Sunil Joshi might be the A-team coach. I have no idea what he's doing now. So he might be running the NCA, I think, if I'm not wrong.
But is Rahul saying this based on the fact that VVS was a really smart guy who was a good cricketer? Or is he saying this based on actual coaching things? And this is my point. if VVS is the person you're coming up with, I remember when Australia was looking for coaches, and like they were like everyone in Australian media didn't really want Andrew McDonald to be the coach, right? And they all wanted a former star to be the coach, and I was like, but isn't Andrew McDonald just the best coach around? Like, I could be wrong. Like, everyone seems to love working with him, players and coaches. He's been around in all these different places. Should we just pick the guy who's the best coach? And what ends up happening is everyone's like, there's another former player we like. Like, if Ashwin says anything about coaching in the next couple of weeks, he'll be the next guy that's on this list. Again, this is not how you pick coaches.
Yeah. And plus, do remember that Gautam Gambhir wasn't the coach at KKR. He was the mentor. Chandrakant Pandit.
That's what I said before. He was the McKinsey consultant. It's a different job. That's why I would never have hired him in the first place. Not because I don't think he's smart enough to coach. Not because I don't think he has great ideas. It's because he has not coached. Trying to coach when you have not coached and your first job is the Indian team, you might have a 50% success rate. So let's say that Shastri worked and he hasn't, right? Is that what you want with the Indian team? Or do you want consistently good coaches to come through? It's misunderstanding of what the coaching job is.
All right, Andy with another super chat. He asks, why keep Gautam Gambhir around in white ball? That's a god squad that wins despite him losing out on all marginal gains. Give him the best team, the best coach. Look, yes, the white ball team is great, but he won the Champions Trophy undefeated, the Asia Cup undefeated. India barely ever lose white ball games in general. On what basis will you chuck him out?
Well, Varun, I want to ask you this. Do you think that they will have split coaches?
Probably
They don't-
not.
Yeah,
They don't
that's my
split
thing.
anything.
Exactly. So my theory is that even if you can
I
think
think
of
the
him as a white
I
ball,
think one of the reasons they want one captain for all formats is because they want one captain and one coach.
that I agree. And so
That's-
my guess is if he goes as red ball coach, he'll be gone as white ball coach, even with that success. I could be wrong, but that's just my theory.
Also, hear me out. One coach across 3 formats and one captain, but multiple vice captains, because that's how.
Oh
people
yeah,
do it
yeah.
in cricket.
And a million, and everyone's an assistant coach.
Okay, then. We've got Upamanyu once again. He says Gambhir is similar to Greg Chappell and he is using Washington like Irfan Pathan. I could say that he's similar to Shukri Conrad the way he's using Vian Mulder.
Yeah, there is a bit of Gambhir and Greg Chappell that is similar in that they are very, very certain their ideas are correct, right?
Yeah.
And that works with certain squads, and it works terribly with other squads. And I know that Greg Chappell had problems with the Indian team, obviously. Then actually had troubles with the Australian team when he was selected for the same reason. There are certain squads, though, that want that. They want that fatherly figure to tell them that everything's right. This may not be that kind of team, right? And so there is an element that is like Greg Chappell. I wouldn't say the Washington bit is like that, only because everyone's Jacob Bethel's batting at number 3. What's his name? Who was the random Raymond Redmond? No,
Raymond
that's a
Reefer.
guy from a TV show. Raymond Reefer.
You've forgotten
Raymond
Cameron Threen?
Yeah,
Ray
exactly.
Redmond from like the blacklist.
Yeah, the blacklist. That's it. So I think there's lots of guys who've batted at number 3. So it's not like Greg Chappell did it and now Gambhir's doing it. Like, it's the new thing. Everyone is trying to do this at the moment,
Actually,
trying to
this
get
is
someone
the
who can bowl at 3.
First time I think he wasn't consistent with his ideology. He never did something this rogue in any of the formats up to this point.
Yep, agreed.
And maybe I got into his head by constantly pushing the false 3, Washington and false 3 narrative. Anyway, Abhilash once again asks, clearly Washington is being groomed to replace Jadeja after his retirement. I think
But he's not
Washington is
the-
kind of like the Ashwin substitute.
Yeah,
Either
agreed.
way, like I don't think they are because how the hell are you going to develop him if he's going to bowl 1 over in a test match?
Yeah, I think it's a bit different. To be honest, I think I'm not sure. I remember this with Sam Curran. Mike Selvey wrote a really great piece about Sam Curran when he opened the bowling for England in a test match. And Selvey said, I don't think England know what Sam Curran is. And that's really dangerous because Sam Curran won't know what he is because he's a young all-rounder. And I think there's an argument that a similar thing will happen to Washi. But if you look at what happened with Jadeja, he was batting at 8 forever, right?
Yeah.
And so you can't expect young all-rounders to suddenly understand what they are because they're so talented and their talents go in so many different directions. What they really I think the best thing for him at the moment is one role and just say, this is what we want you to do for an extended period of time. And then maybe when Jadeja or Akshar or both of them, disappear, we'll change that role slightly. But the problem is that that's not really how Gambhir puts his sides together. And that's not, and Washi's been the extra man, right? So it's tricky for them to be able to do that, to be honest.
I think-
They're not, they almost have too many all-rounders. And you know, and you would argue in this game they literally had too many all around.
So the issue is India's playing like one more test match this year. They don't play another till like mid next year versus Sri Lanka, and then they don't play anything till New Zealand. So if this is also not the right time to give someone a run, because if Washington, like, we don't know what would happen in the next 6 months, right? But like, who knows what Gambhir is thinking? Is Gambhir around if India lose the T20 World Cup? Fuck knows what happens there, right? So it's like,
True.
but like, I agree with Jarrod, is you don't want to Sean Pollock Washington where he's a forever number 8. But there's probably like a middle ground between him batting at 8 and him being the false 3, right? There has to be something. Like, I don't have an issue with, like, if you
I would probably
say,
just
like, Jadeja 6
Varun.
and Washington 7, I can see
Yeah,
it.
I was going to say I would probably just bat Washi at 6.
Couldn't
And just
do
say
that as
you're
well.
our number 6 now, and then occasionally you'll be our second spinner. You might even be our first spinner at times, or you'll be our third spinner. So as a bowler, we can't guarantee you the overs, but we want you to be our number 6. That's what we have decided. And if that doesn't work, you pivot to another plan, right? But I think you have to give him a role in the side. He has to understand how he's developing.
I personally would much rather develop his bowling first, because I think we were discussing yesterday. I'd much rather he averages 35 at the bat and 25 at the ball than like 45 at the bat and 32 at the ball.
You can
right?
do that
Any
as
day
well.
of the week.
Again, I have no issue with that either. You do one or the other is fine.
And I mean, he got the ball to, turn in England, so you'd imagine that he'd do
He
well
gets
in these
he's
conditions
got such
too.
good grift. He's got such a good
Yeah.
grift, though, right? Yeah.
Anyway, I think that's the end of the super chats, isn't it? Wow,
We're
we
done.
got through them,
Thank God
guys.
for that.
Congratulations, and congratulations to all South African fans as well. We'll all be keeping a keen eye towards Guwahati, because either this series will be drawn or India will be swept again. So let's see what
I
happens on
almost
that
want
front.
India to lose this test match, because it's like 1-1. It just feels so odd. At home, I'm like, if you're gonna lose, just lose 2-0.
You know you've said this out loud on the internet.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
if they lost the first test, I either want them to win this 2-0 or just lose this 2-0. Don't do 1-1.
You know what I want?
No one would like it.
I want a tie.
You want to?
Because there was
That
a
would be
chance
brilliant.
today was going to be a tie, and I was all in. Like
Yeah.
how have we had so many crazy test matches and not pulled off a tie in the last 2 years? Right?
Closest
I
we
think
got
we're
was-
overdue a tie.
Yeah, the closest we got was when Siraj goes bonkers at the Oval, right? I mean, that's
No, I
as
think the
close as we're going to get.
What's the closest was the follow-on game that New Zealand win.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
that
that
pretty
was the
close.
closest.
There's been a couple. That's what I mean. I think we've
Yeah.
had, more, you can go back to Ben Stokes and Kusal. Like, I think we've had a few games when it could be a tie.
So we just have one more, by the way.
All right then. Siva says or asks, the day Jarrod posted video how to win tests in India, we were whitewashed by New Zealand and lost to South Africa after 15 years. Jarrod, please remove that video.
Hey, that's why I get paid the big bucks. That's why I get paid the
Exactly.
medium buck. That's why I'm basically broke.
All we need to say, well, if we do a video that says how can England win in Australia, then England will win. Like,
Well,
I don't think
that video's almost finished. So
video's coming. So
All right then. That brings this podcast to a wrap. So thank you for watching. Thank you for your interactions and your super chats. Don't forget that you can go to goodareas.co and bookmark that webpage. That can prove to be your one-stop shop for all the fun work that we do as part of our team, whether it be written content, videos, or podcasts. And of course, as I mentioned at the start, you can become one of our paid subscribers on Patreon by going to Patreon/Good Areas Podcast. All of our shows are powered by those folks, and then you can enjoy ad-free content. You can talk to us exclusively. You can give us podcast recommendations as well. So lots of fun stuff there. And yeah, we'll see you soon enough. That's all for today. Have a good one, folks, and goodbye.
This video is brought to you by our supporters on Patreon. If you want to be part of the community that makes content like this, head over now.